Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Real Talks. I'm your host, David Steele. So today what I thought we'd do for this video is talk about an actor that has been around in the business for quite a long time and is one of the best actors out there, but doesn't have any Oscars to show for it. And he's had 5 Best Actor Oscar nominations, and I'm talking about Bradley Cooper. And the reason why I'm talking about Bradley Cooper today is because it's his birthday. Yes, he's celebrating his 47th birthday today. He's about 9 months younger than I am. But what I thought I'd do is I'd run down his top 5 performances of his career. Now, when I say this, guys, I want you to realize that there are movies I haven't seen. This is personal and film is subjective. So your 5 may not be my 5. And by the way, guys, leave your thoughts down in the comments. Tell me a movie I haven't seen with Bradley Cooper. And if I could ask you to do one big thing, please like and subscribe to the channel, because that's the only way I know you like the content, and we got a ton of stuff coming up for you in 2023. Okay, so with all that out of the way, let's jump right in. So my number 5 favorite movie with Bradley Cooper was the 2010 movie, The A-Team. Now, this was directed by Joe Carnahan, and it stars Leslie Nielsen, Bradley Cooper, Rampage Jackson, and they star as an Alpha Team, who was a unit that did several missions during the Iraq War. And Bradley plays Face, who's a master of disguise. I've seen it several times. It was a fun movie. It had its moments. Jessica Biel plays Captain Sosa, who is his former love interest, and in charge of recovering these engraving plates that could be used to counterfeit money. So as the film goes along, they get closer. It's good. The story eventually comes together, and it's a cool, I would quote, non-serious role for him. Not much in there. I did like the little cameo with Dirk Benedict. So he was a big actor in the 80s. Battlestar Galactica. He was actually Face in the A-Team. So I'm glad they brought him in there for that cameo. But yeah, it was fun. I'd love to see a sequel made for that, but realistically, it broke even, and I doubt that they would ever do it. Still a good time, though. So the next year, 2011, he does this other movie called Limitless. And this time, he plays Eddie Moore, who's a struggling writer. And his brother came around one day and told him that he's got this new designer drug called NTZ. And he suggested he takes it. So he did. And all of his cognitive functions were hypersensitive, along with his memory being improved. And this pill allows him to use 100% of his mind, which allows him to learn different languages, read books within, a minute or two. He's got an improved memory, and it just basically allows him to become a financial genius. So Robert De Niro co-stars in this film, who was a big hero of his growing up, and he runs his hedge fund. And so he's trying to figure out, why is this guy so bright, and how do I help, and how do I get more of this? The other thing I'll say, too, is this. This pill doesn't go without problems. So there are people tracking him, obviously, and he got mixed up in the wrong crowd with this, and they want to kill him. So he has to figure out a way to basically fool De Niro's character, get back with his girlfriend because she left him because he was a struggling writer, and get out of this. And I got to say, the last scene with De Niro outside the office is just an epic scene. I loved it so much. The movie was good. It wasn't great, but it was really, really good. Yeah, I mean, it's just, there's so many different dynamics working there. And, you almost wish that there was something out like this so we could all be so bright, They actually did try this as a CBS series. I don't know if it's still running. And Bradley Cooper was actually in 4 episodes, so it was good to see him incorporated that. I think it worked better as a standalone movie instead of a television series. But it was good. So that's my number 4. My number 3 is a couple years later, and this was his second Academy Award nomination. And that's American Sniper. So this was directed by two-time Academy Award winner Clint Eastwood, and Bradley Cooper played a man, actually deceased now. His name was Chris Kyle, and he wanted to become a cowboy, But after witnessing the tragic events of 9/11, he felt like he had to do something. So he joined the Navy SEALs and eventually did 4 tours overseas. Kyle ended up becoming the most prolific sniper in American history. With was over 150 kills, several different awards, Silver Star, all of this. Before he left, though, he found the love interest of his life in Taya, played by Sienna Miller. And so he struggled to become whole again after coming home from each tour. And he eventually ended up finding guilt, and he had a really, really bad PTSD. And, once he came home from his last tour, he was able to really settle in. It took time. And he was actually able to help people. And so that was really, really important. It's a powerful movie. It shows you what the effects of war can be and are. And it makes you appreciate war veterans that much more. War fundamentally changes people in the worst way. And you can only, hope to recover anything after that. But he eventually did meet his tragic end when he was trying to help somebody. So he's no longer with us, but his story is a powerful one. I love the movie. It was one of Clint Eastwood's first biopics. He had 5 in total. This was the best one of the 5, I think. You had American Sniper, you had Sully, you had the 1519 to Paris, you had The Mule, and then you had Jewel. I think as Eastwood started to do each movie, they went down every single time. And you could see some elements that he was repeating in The Mule, in American Sniper. It was okay. Actually, Bradley Cooper had a small little supporting role in The Mule. And, it was okay. But American Sniper that's my third best movie from Bradley Cooper. And, as I said, he got an Academy Award nomination. So, a couple years earlier, he actually ended up getting his first Academy Award nomination. And this was a great movie. And that was Silver Linings Playbook. So, unbelievably, it's 11 years old as of this year. So this was directed by David O. Russell, and it details Pat, played by Bradley Cooper, who came home from a mental institution because he had a breakdown. And his parents, Pat Sr., who's played by Robert De Niro once again, and the incomparable Jackie Weaver, Dolores, agree to take him in. And he meets Tiffany, Jennifer Lawrence's character. And by the way, she won an Oscar for this role. So that's not to go. This was Jennifer Lawrence's coming out party. She ended up getting 3 Oscar nominations in 4 years. So she got one. She won the Oscar for Silver Linings Playbook. She got one for Joy, and she got one for American Hustle. So she's misunderstood as we see her go through this movie, but she's an avid dancer. So as they begin to see more and more of each other, there's a big dance-off coming up, and she needs a partner, and Pat agrees to actually be Tiffany's partner for this dance-off. And so they eventually ended up falling for each other. And so Pat Sr. and his father's son, the biggest thing that they are Philadelphia Eagle football fans. And that becomes a very important thing as the movie goes along. Now, Pat Sr. is a bookie. So he's always juggling money and trying to figure out things. And he sends his son off to go to a Philadelphia football game, the Eagles, to watch the rivals, the New York Giants, play, because he can't go anymore because he got kicked out. And so what ends up happening is there's a fight. And so he really believes that, as he calls it, the juju is really messed up at this point. And one of the greatest scenes in this film is everybody's together. The brother, Tiffany, Pat Sr., and Dolores are in the room. And Tiffany is basically debunking all these things of what Pat Sr. is saying. Well, it's a remarkable scene. I loved it. And so as the movie comes to a climax, the dance that he was supposed to do with Tiffany and the big game, the Philly New York Giants game, comes into focus. And there's one last bet, and we don't know are they going to make it or not. And so it's really interesting. And there's an absolutely heartwarming scene at the end with Robert De Niro and Bradley Cooper, and it's just what he says and how he says it and the delivery of it. It's amazing. And then, Pat goes after Tiffany and basically says, listen, I know that what you were trying to say to me, I understand. And it's just, so the two shots that you'd have there are the 360 degrees, the camera moves around, and then that camera as it just zooms out. It's magnificent. I love this movie. It's a tearjerker.
The only way you can meet my
crazy was by doing something crazy yourself. Thank you. I love you. I knew it the minute I met you. I'm sorry it took so long for me to catch up. I just got stuck. Pat.
But it's really a fun movie. And so that leads up to the number one role. And I think that, so he got nominated for another Oscar for this. And I think this is just a magical, magical role. And that's the 2018 movie Star is Born. So he stars as the lead, country singer Jackson Maine. Not to mention, guys, he's making his directorial debut in this movie. Amazing. And, you can go back and YouTube all the behind-the-scenes stuff, but how he was able to record the concerts and everything else, unbelievable. So this movie just shines. It has an all-star cast, Lady Gaga, Sam Elliott, and several others. And Jackson plays a struggling but functional alcoholic who meets Lady Gaga. And so he invites her to one of her the concerts. And she makes her first appearance, as we see, on stage for Shallow, which, by the way, she won Best Original Song for. And truth be told, I had never heard Lady Gaga's voice up until that moment. And I was sitting in the theater, and when I tell you the hairs on my arms just went like this. Unbelievable. Angelic voice. What you may think of her as an artist and her, the big costumes and outlandishness, it doesn't matter. What a voice.
Tell me something, boy. Aren't you tired trying to fill that void? Or do you need more? Ain't it hard keeping it so hardcore? I'm falling.
I hope she wins. I mean, she was actually nominated for Best Actress for this movie. She didn't win, and I can understand why. It's her first time and everything else, but she was unbelievable because you saw the authenticity in her. Stephanie, and that's her name, Stephanie, this is what she did. The trials, the tribulations, going there, and then getting discovered, and then just skyrocketing. And it's not about the fame. And so that was one thing that Bradley Cooper really made a point about, is not to have her wear makeup. What you saw on screen was her face. There are scenes that she's wearing makeup, but her actual face. And it's just unbelievable, the authenticity. And so, as I said, her popularity explodes. And from there, they hit the road where they proceed to fall in love. And So as her star begins to shine, Jackson's alcoholic tendencies become worse and they intensify. And that it culminates in that heartbreaking scene at the Grammys where she wins a Grammy. And I got to be honest, my mother was an alcoholic, God rest her soul. And so I could feel. I've seen this movie 5 times, guys. I still can't watch that scene because it is so brutally honest. And I understand what it's like to not only see alcoholism, but to live with it. And it's heartbreaking. You want to help them so badly, and you think you can change them. And it's only that, it's what they call, several people call that moment of clarity. And yeah, that scene is just, it'll rip your heart out. So, and so he decides to give her she decides to give him a second chance. He goes to rehab and she decides to help, gives him a second chance. And when he comes home from rehab, he has a conversation with her manager and basically says, so she's not there, and he basically says, you're no good for Ellie. You're just going to drag her down. You're just going to bring her down. And he eventually ends up believing that. And he eventually ends up committing suicide. And so he told the story to one of the rehab doctors. Excuse me. He told the story to one of the rehab doctors about his father hanging himself from the ceiling fan. And so there, movies always tend to foreshadow, right? And so what ended up happening was, and it took me 4 times to find this. And so in that very first 5 minutes of the film, when they're stopped at the stoplight, you see that facade up on the side, and it has a noose. And it's just like, oh, wow. It's just, so he ends up committing suicide. He hangs himself. And so so they have to deal with his loss. And from that final scene was, especially brutal for Lady Gaga, because on that day of filming, she ended up losing one of her best friends to cancer. And, she was given the option not to film that day. And she's like, no, I want to do it. And you could just feel her heart pouring out. And you want to talk about a consummate professional. She just had her friend die, and she's going out there and she's doing this. Unbelievable. Overall, it's a magnificent movie. Really shows the ugly nature of alcoholism, though. But moreover, it was a great, debut for Lady Gaga on the big screen. Guys, it's just that I have not seen the 1975 version. And I know I probably should, but this one is just, it's unbelievable. I thoroughly loved that movie. And, that was nominated for Best Picture. But I think the one thing that was lacking was it came out too early in the Oscar season. I don't know how Bradley Cooper didn't get nominated for Best Director. Somebody needs to tell me, because what he did with that movie being his directorial debut, yeah. So, it was a remarkable film. As I said, 5 Oscar nominations, no Oscars. But that might all change this year. And there's a little movie coming out called Maestro. And Bradley Cooper is actually going to be playing, I believe he's directing it as well. And he's going to be playing Leonard Bernstein. And, there are set photos out there and everything else. Carey Mulligan's going to co-star in it. This looks amazing. And I'm really hoping he gets that Oscar. I mean, we'll see what happens with the performances of the next year, and I should say this year, and whatever. But if he doesn't get nominated, at least there's something wrong. Speaking of big, though, we go from one big thing to another big thing. Guys, we are 10, that's right, 10 days away from arguably the biggest series, not only to drop on HBO Max, but of 2023. And that's The Last of Us. If you haven't gone back to watch it, I'm going to put the thing right there for you. Go back and watch the first 2 parts of why I think The Last of Us might be the greatest game of all time. We have that right around the corner. We're going to be doing live streams right after the episode. It's going to be myself, it's going to be Kyle, it's going to be Destiny, and it's going to be Tyler. And we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about The Last of Us. The first episode is supposed to be about 85 minutes. I'm really dying to see where this goes. If you have, imagine The Walking Dead and, something like that with zombies, you'll love it. Nonetheless, guys, 10 days. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. In February, we've got Ant-Man. Okay? March 3rd, we have Creed 3. May 5th, we have the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This is going to be the final one with James Gunn behind the camera, Dave Bautista. We'll see how this goes. That's going to kick off the summer. June is just a murderer's row. Across the Spider-Verse, Transformers, The Flash, Indiana Jones. Then in July, we have Barbie 2. Then we have Oppenheimer, and we have the new Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. We're going to be covering all of these movies here on the channel. Spoiler cast. Guys, I can't reiterate enough. Hit that like and subscribe button. You're going to be getting all that content. And that's the only way I know that you like it. Leave a comment down in the comments section. Please tell me which ones are you dying to see. Which ones, you're not too fond of, but which ones you really do want to see. And also, what do you think of Bradley Cooper as an actor? Do you like him as an actor? Are there other roles I should be watching him in? So, for the summer season, Kyle and I have made the decision that we're not going to give you the roundup. In lieu of that, you're going to be getting all those spoiler casts. So that's going to be great for you guys. Yeah. So, like I said, guys, just stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button, and you'll get all of it. Okay, guys. And that's going to do it for me today. Take care of yourself. Be safe. And I will see you next time. I am David Steele, and you have been watching Real Talks. Bye-bye, guys.